The Galactic Council chamber was filled beyond capacity. News of the Taurian accusation against humanity had spread through diplomatic channels, drawing observers from species that rarely attended regular sessions. The tiered seating hummed with whispered conversations in hundreds of languages as representatives speculated on how the humans would respond. Amanda Reeves entered the chamber flanked by her team. She wore her formal diplomatic uniform, dark blue with silver and gold accents, that caught the light. Her face showed no sign of the sleepless night she had endured, her posture straight and confident. Behind her walked Daniel Carter, carrying additional data tablets, and Greg Lawson, whose military background was evident in his alert gaze as he scanned the crowd. As they took their seats in the human section, Amanda noticed the subtle reactions from other species. Some leaned away slightly. Others watched with unblinking eyes or vibrating antennae. The Proxima Centauri delegation, Earth's strongest allies, nodded in greeting, their scaled faces unreadable to most, but showing concern to Amanda's trained eye. High Counselor Zivek took his place at the central podium, his iridescent feathers catching the light as he moved. "This council session will now continue," he announced, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. "We resume our discussion of the Security Assessment Committee's findings regarding human military expansion. Ambassador Reeves has requested time to respond to these findings." Zivek turned his piercing yellow eyes toward Amanda. "The floor is yours, Ambassador." Amanda rose slowly and walked to the central speaker's position. The podium adjusted to her height automatically. She placed her data tablet down but did not activate it immediately. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice clear and controlled. "Yesterday, this body heard an assessment of humanity that was fundamentally flawed. Not merely incorrect, but backwards in its understanding of our species." She paused, making eye contact with delegates from several major powers before continuing. "High Counselor Zivek and the Security Committee have observed humanity's military readiness and concluded that we act out of fear, that we arm ourselves because we expect conflict, that we are at our core a frightened species." Amanda tapped her data tablet, activating the chamber's central display. A three-dimensional image appeared, showing Earth from orbit. The image zoomed in, showing a military cemetery with rows of white markers stretching to the horizon. "This is Arlington National Cemetery on our homeworld, one of many such places where we honor those who died in our conflicts." The display shifted, showing similar sites from around Earth. "For most of our history, humans fought each other. We did not fear war, we knew it intimately." She advanced to the next display, showing historical images of human conflicts through the centuries. "The Taurian analysis suggests that these experiences made us fearful, that we build weapons and train soldiers because we are afraid." She shook her head slowly. "This misunderstands something fundamental about humanity." Amanda's voice grew, stronger, filling the chamber without shouting. "Humans do not fear war. We respect it." Murmurs spread through the assembly. Several translation devices buzzed as they sought proper equivalents for the distinction she was making. "A species that fears war runs from it," Amanda continued. "A species that respects war understands its terrible cost and prepares accordingly." She advanced the display again, showing human first responders helping wounded, engineers rebuilding destroyed cities, medical teams treating injuries. "Our military preparation is not born from paranoia, but from wisdom earned through bloody centuries. We build defenses not because we expect you to attack us, but because we understand that peace must be maintained through strength and mutual respect." Amanda looked directly at Zivek. "The Taurian conclave developed their military after a natural disaster nearly extinguished their species. They armed themselves out of fear of extinction. This is their experience, and they have projected it onto us." Zivek's feathers ruffled slightly, a sign of agitation that Amanda had anticipated. "Humans have a different history. We prepare for conflict not because we think it inevitable, but because we have learned never to take peace for granted." She paused. "Peace is not the absence of weapons, counselors. It is the presence of wisdom." The chamber was completely silent now. Even the typically restless delegates sat motionless, focused on her words. The Security Committee has recommended sanctions against Earth until we reduce our military readiness. This proposal fundamentally misunderstands what our readiness means. Amanda's voice took on an edge of steel. Our strength is not a threat to this council. It is a commitment to its preservation. She advanced to a new display showing joint human-alien military exercises, humanitarian missions where human ships delivered supplies to disaster zones, and Earth defense vessels protecting alien merchant ships from pirates. A species ruled by fear hoards its strength, we share ours. A species consumed by paranoia isolates itself. We seek connection. Amanda gestured to the images. These are not the actions of a frightened people, but of a people who understand that security requires vigilance. Amanda deactivated the display and looked around the chamber slowly, making eye contact with key delegates. If you wish to understand humanity, understand this. We do not arm ourselves because we expect war. We arm ourselves because we know what happens when peace-loving peoples are unprepared for those who are not peace-loving. She stood straighter, her voice ringing with authority. The resolution before this council suggests that humanity must be corrected, that our perspective is flawed. I submit that it is not our perspective that needs correction, but your understanding of it. Amanda picked up her data tablet. Humanity respectfully rejects the assessment that our military readiness stems from fear. We reject the notion that our preparations threaten the stability of this council, and we categorically reject any sanctions based on this fundamental misreading of our nature. Her final words came quietly, but with unmistakable intensity. Humans, do not fear war, counselors. We have seen its face too many times to fear it. What we fear is the peace of the unprepared, the false peace that invites aggression rather than preventing it. The chamber erupted in voices as Amanda returned to her seat. Daniel leaned close to her. That wasn't exactly the diplomatic approach we practiced, he whispered. Amanda gave him a small smile. Diplomacy isn't always about being diplomatic, Daniel. Sometimes it's about being understood. Across the chamber, representatives huddled in urgent discussion. The Proxima Centauri delegation sent Amanda a message of support through their secure channel. Several predator species were watching the human delegation with what appeared to be newfound interest or respect. High Counselor Javek raised his wings for silence, but it took several moments for the chamber to quiet. The council must consider Ambassador Reeves's response, he announced. We will recess for 1 standard hour before proceeding to discussion and vote. As delegates began filing out, Amanda received an urgent message from Admiral Blake. Defense Network reports 6 Taurian observation vessels have withdrawn from positions near Earth colonies. Your message was received. Greg Lawson leaned in. What happens now, Ambassador? Amanda watched as Javek consulted urgently with other senior council members. Now, she said quietly, we find out who really understands what I just said. The hour-long recess stretched to 3 as the council leadership held emergency meetings. In the human embassy section, Amanda sat with her team, reviewing the stream of messages coming in from Earth and human colonies. Most expressed support, though some colonial governors worried about potential backlash. The Arcturus colony is requesting additional security ships, Daniel reported, scanning through messages. They're concerned about being on the edge of Taurian space. Amanda nodded. Forward the request to Admiral Blake, but tell them to keep the ships at a respectful distance. We made our point. Now we need to show restraint. Greg Lawson entered the room with a data tablet. Preliminary reactions from key species, he announced, setting the tablet on the table. The Rigelian Hive is supportive. They've always respected military strength. The Vega Collective is neutral, but leaning our way. They appreciate that we called out the difference between fear and respect. And the Taurians? Amanda asked. Greg frowned. Hard to read. Their official channels are silent, but our intelligence suggests they're split. The military faction seems to have gained some respect for us, while the political faction is embarrassed. That's a dangerous combination, Amanda mused. Michelle Ortiz, the communications director, rushed in. Ambassador, The council is reconvening in 10 minutes. And there's something else. The Taurians have requested a private meeting with you before the session restarts. Amanda raised an eyebrow. Where? The neutral meditation chamber near the council hall. Amanda stood, straightening her uniform. I'll go alone. Ambassador security protocol, Greg began. Need to be flexible, Amanda finished for him. If they wanted to harm me, they wouldn't do it on the station. This is about saving face. I need to give them that chance. She left before her team could protest further, walking briskly through the station's curved corridors. The meditation chamber was a small room designed to accommodate diplomats who needed neutral ground for sensitive conversations. Its walls changed color based on the emotional states of those inside, currently a tense orange. High Counselor Javek waited inside, along with a Taurian Amanda didn't recognize. The unknown Taurian wore the insignia of their military leadership. Ambassador Reeves, Javek said, his feathers slightly flattened, a sign of attempted humility among his kind. This is Supreme Commander Archon of our defense forces. Amanda inclined her head respectfully. High Counselor, Supreme Commander. Archon studied her with unblinking yellow eyes. Your speech was illuminating, Ambassador. Thank you, Amanda replied simply. We did not expect such a response, Javek admitted. In our analysis of human behavior, we failed to consider cultural interpretations of military readiness. Amanda nodded. Different evolutionary paths lead to different perspectives. The Taurian people developed advanced weapons after nearly facing extinction from a natural disaster. Your military exists primarily to prevent that kind of threat. It makes sense that you would view all military development through that lens. Archon made a clicking sound with his beak, the Taurian equivalent of thoughtful agreement. Humans developed weapons to fight each other. Your threats were always internal, not external. This creates a different relationship with conflict. Exactly, Amanda said. We don't fear war because we've never had the luxury of fearing it. We've had to understand it, respect its power, and prepare for it throughout our history. The walls of the chamber shifted from orange to a calmer blue-green. The resolution against Earth will not pass, Javek stated. We have spoken with enough delegations to ensure this. Amanda maintained her diplomatic composure, though inside she felt a surge of relief. That is good to hear. However, Javek continued, we cannot simply withdraw it without losing standing. The Taurian conclave has proposed amendments. He activated a small projector, showing the revised resolution. Instead of sanctions against Earth, it called for the creation of a joint military doctrine committee with representatives from all council species, including humans. Your perspective on conflict has value, Archon explained. Many younger species in the council have never experienced true war. They build weapons without understanding their purpose. Perhaps humans can educate them. Amanda read the proposal carefully. It was more than a face-saving measure. It was an opportunity to reshape how the entire council viewed military preparedness and defensive strategy. I can support this amendment, she said finally, with Earth's full participation in the committee. Of course, Javek agreed, as equals. The chamber walls shifted to a soft purple, harmony. Amanda knew this meeting was a pivotal moment in human-Taurian relations. One more thing, she added. The Taurian observation vessels near our colonies. Archon clicked his beak. Already recalled. A prudent measure given our new understanding. Then I believe we're ready to reconvene, Amanda said. They walked together to the council chamber, entering side by side rather than separately, a gesture not lost on the watching delegates. Daniel caught Amanda's eye from the human section, a questioning look on his face. She gave him a small nod of reassurance. High Counselor Javek took the central podium, his voice ringing out across the chamber. This council has carefully considered Ambassador Reeves' response to the Security Assessment Committee's findings. After consultation, the Taurian conclave wishes to amend its original resolution. Murmurs spread through the chamber as Javek outlined the new proposal. Amanda watched the reactions. Surprise from many delegations, relief from Earth's allies, disappointment from a few species that had hoped to see humans humbled. The amended resolution recognizes that military preparedness can stem from different cultural foundations, Chevette concluded. We propose creating a joint military doctrine committee with representatives from all council species to develop shared understanding of defensive principles. The vote was swift and decisive. The amended resolution passed with only 12 dissenting voices among the hundreds of representatives. As the session ended, Amanda found herself surrounded by delegates eager to speak with her. The Rigelian ambassador, a tall insectoid being, clicked its mandibles in approval. You have changed how many view humans, it said in its clicking language, translated through Amanda's earpiece. Some feared your species' unpredictability. Now they respect your clarity. The Proxima Centauri ambassador, a reptilian female named Cazal, gripped Amanda's arm in their traditional greeting. Well fought, friend. The Taurians will not underestimate Earth again. Later, back in the embassy section, Amanda sat with her team reviewing the outcomes. President Morgan is pleased, Daniel reported after a secure call to Earth. The colonial governors are already reporting improved relations with neighboring alien outposts. And the Taurians? Amanda asked. Greg checked his intelligence reports. Maintaining a respectful distance, their media is spinning this as a mutual understanding rather than a diplomatic defeat. Amanda nodded. Good. Let them save face. This was never about winning or losing. It was about being understood. Michelle looked up from her data tablet. Ambassador, you've been invited to speak at the first meeting of the Joint Military Doctrine Committee. They want you to explain humanity's philosophy on conflict and preparation. Amanda smiled slightly. An entire committee devoted to teaching the galaxy that respecting war's power is the best way to avoid it. Not what I expected when I woke up yesterday. She walked to the viewport, watching as ships departed the station carrying news of the day's events to worlds across the galaxy. What happens next? Daniel asked, joining her. Amanda watched a Taurian vessel maneuver gracefully away from the station. Now we keep our word. We teach them what it means to respect conflict rather than fear it, and we hope they never have to learn the hard way, as humanity did. And if they don't understand? Daniel pressed. Amanda's expression grew serious. Then we make sure we're prepared, not because we're afraid, but because we respect what happens when peace fails. Ambassador Amanda Reeves stood at the viewport of the diplomatic vessel Northern Star, watching as the massive Galactic Council station grew larger against the starfield. The station was a marvel of alien engineering, a spinning wheel of gleaming metal and crystalline structures that housed representatives from over 200 spacefaring species. After 6 months as Earth's representative, Amanda still felt a sense of wonder each time she approached it. Docking procedures initiated, Ambassador, said the ship's captain, Ryan Foster. We'll be connected in 10 minutes. Amanda nodded, her reflection in the viewport showing her carefully neutral expression. She wore the navy blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, with its silver trim and single golden star on each shoulder. At 42, she had the composed demeanor of someone who had spent decades in high-pressure negotiations. Her brown hair was pulled back in a practical bun, and her green eyes missed nothing. Any updates from home? She asked. Just the usual, briefing package, answered her aide, Daniel Carter, a lanky man in his early 30s with a talent for information analysis. He handed her a data pad. The expansion of the Mars colony is proceeding ahead of schedule. The joint mining operation, with the Proxima Centauri Alliance, is yielding 30% more resources than projected. Amanda skimmed the reports, noting the underlying message. Humanity was thriving in its expansion to the stars. After decades of effort following first contact, humans had earned their place in the galactic community through determination and adaptability rather than technological superiority. The Northern Star shuddered slightly as docking clamps engaged with the station. Amanda handed the data pad back to Daniel and straightened her uniform. Let's not keep the council waiting, she said. The Galactic Council chamber was designed to humble newcomers. Its vaulted ceiling rose nearly 50 meters, covered in a projection. of the Milky Way galaxy that slowly rotated overhead. Hundreds of delegates from across known space sat in tiered seating arranged in a perfect circle. At the center stood the speaker's podium, currently occupied by High Counselor HFY of the Taurian Conclave. HFY was an imposing figure even among his own kind. Standing over 2 meters tall, his body was covered in iridescent feathers that shifted from deep blue to purple depending on the light. His hooked beak and piercing yellow eyes gave him a perpetually stern expression. Amanda took her seat in the human section, nodding greetings to her allies, the reptilian Proxima delegates, the insectoid Rigelians, and the amorphous Vega Collective representatives. She noted with concern that several traditionally friendly delegations seemed to be avoiding eye contact today. "Something's wrong," Daniel whispered, having noticed the same thing. Before Amanda could respond, HFY's amplified voice filled the chamber. "This council session is now in progress," the Taurian announced. "Our first order of business comes from the Security Assessment Committee." A holographic display activated in the center of the chamber, showing various human colonies and military installations. Amanda felt a chill run down her spine. This was not on the agenda she had received. Over the past standard year, HFY continued, human expansion has been accompanied by a significant military buildup, new defense platforms around Mars, Jupiter, and their extrasolar colonies, increased production of warships disguised as exploration vessels, training exercises that simulate conflict scenarios with various council species. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Amanda kept her face carefully neutral despite her rising alarm. "The Security Assessment Committee has analyzed this behavior and reached a conclusion," HFY said, his feathers puffing slightly in what Amanda recognized as a display of dominance. "Humans are acting out of fear. Their history of violent conflict on their homeworld has conditioned them to expect war, even among peaceful stellar nations." The murmurs grew louder. Amanda felt her cheeks flush with anger, but years of diplomatic training kept her seated and composed. Earth's representatives claim they seek peaceful cooperation, yet their actions betray their true expectations. They arm themselves not for defense, but because they fundamentally expect conflict. Such paranoia is dangerous and contagious. Now HFY turned his piercing gaze directly at Amanda. "We propose a resolution. Sanctions on human military expansion until a full psychological assessment of their leadership can be conducted and appropriate therapies implemented." The chamber erupted in discussion. Amanda's communication device buzzed with incoming messages from Earth, from allied delegations, from human colonies seeking guidance. She ignored them all, focusing instead on the clever trap HFY had laid. By framing humanity's military preparedness as fear rather than prudence, he had undermined their standing in two ways simultaneously. To the predator species, fear meant weakness, an invitation to test human defenses. To the more peaceful species, fear of war suggested humans might strike preemptively out of paranoia. "Ambassador Reeves," HFY called out, silencing the chamber. "The Taurian Conclave extends the opportunity for humans to respond to these findings before we vote on the resolution." Amanda stood slowly, feeling hundreds of alien eyes upon her. The diplomatic playbook offered several standard responses: deny the accusation, request time for consultation, propose a compromise. All would project weakness in this situation. "High Counselor," she said, her voice steady despite her anger, "Earth appreciates the opportunity to address these fascinating interpretations of our actions. I request 24 hours to prepare a formal response that will correct several fundamental misunderstandings about humanity." HFY tilted his head, a gesture of mild surprise. "The Council grants your request, Ambassador. We will reconvene tomorrow at this time." As the session adjourned, Amanda was immediately surrounded by her team. Security Chief Greg Lawson, a former military officer with a perpetual frown, spoke first. "This is a coordinated move. The Taurians have been gathering support for weeks." "Agreed," Amanda said, already walking briskly toward the human embassy section of the station. "Daniel, I need everything we have on Torian power plays over the last decade. Greg, contact Admiral Blake. I need a secure line in 30 minutes. And someone get me Earth Central on the Quantum Channel. As they reached the embassy, Amanda paused at the door to her office, turning to her team with fire in her eyes. They think we fear war, she said, her voice low and intense. Tomorrow, I'm going to educate the Council about what humanity truly fears and what we're willing to do when pushed. She entered her office alone, the door sliding shut behind her. On her desk, emergency messages were already piling up. Amanda ignored them, walking instead to the viewport that showed Earth, a small blue marble from this distance. She placed her palm against the cool glass. We've come too far to be dismissed as frightened children, she whispered. Tomorrow they learn what humanity really is. The human embassy on the Galactic Council station buzzed with urgent activity. Staff members rushed between rooms carrying data pads, while security personnel checked and rechecked the communication systems for any signs of tampering. At the center of this controlled chaos, Ambassador Amanda Reeves sat at the head of a long conference table, her face illuminated by the holographic displays showing Earth's military leaders. They've backed us into a corner, said Admiral Frank Blake, his hologram flickering slightly. The aging commander of Earth's defense fleet had weathered many crises, but rarely a diplomatic one of this magnitude. If we deny their accusations, we look defensive. If we agree, we look weak. And if we do nothing, the Council votes tomorrow on sanctions that will cripple our expansion efforts, added General Sophia Ward, her expression grim. Half our colonies depend on regular supply shipments that would be blocked. Amanda tapped her fingers on the table thoughtfully. This isn't about military preparedness. The Torians have been losing influence since we brokered the mining treaty with Proxima Centauri. This is about putting us back in our place. Daniel Carter entered the room with a stack of data tablets, which he distributed to the embassy staff seated around the table. I've compiled everything on Torian diplomatic moves over the last 5 years, he said. There's a pattern. Every time a newer species gains too much influence, they get hit with some kind of council action. So we're just the latest target, said Greg Lawson, studying the data. But why frame it as fear? Why not just accuse us of being too aggressive? Amanda leaned forward. Because that wouldn't work against humans. Our military is substantial but clearly defensive. We've never initiated a conflict since joining the Council. The door slid open, and Michelle Ortiz, the embassy's communications director, entered with a worried expression. Ambassador, we're getting flooded with messages from Earth governments and colonial officials. The news has leaked. Everyone wants to know how we're responding. Tell them we're formulating a strategy, Amanda replied. No details yet. When Michelle left, Amanda turned back to the military holograms. The Torians think they understand humans because they've studied our wars, but they've missed something fundamental about us. What's that? Asked Daniel. Amanda stood up and walked to the large viewport. From here she could see the massive wheel of the station rotating against the backdrop of stars. They think our military preparedness comes from fear, because that's how they interpret their own history. Torians developed advanced weapons after nearly being wiped out by a natural disaster. They arm themselves because they're afraid of extinction. She turned back to face the room. But humans? We don't arm ourselves primarily out of fear. We do it out of respect. Respect? Greg looked confused. Respect for what war truly is, Amanda explained, for its terrible power and consequences. We prepare not because we're afraid, but because we've learned through centuries of bloodshed what happens when you're not prepared. Admiral Blake nodded, slowly on the screen. She's right. The Torians have never experienced true war like we have. Their conflicts have been limited, ritualistic. They don't understand what drives us. That's our angle, Amanda said, her voice growing more confident. If they've misunderstood our basic nature, then their entire accusation falls apart. She began pacing, energy radiating from her movements. I need historical examples. Times when humans prepared for war not out of fear but out of respect for its power. Daniel's fingers flew across his data pad. The Swiss military model. Armed. Neutrality. They maintain one of the best-trained civilian forces on Earth not because they're afraid, but because they respect the reality of conflict. Good, Amanda nodded. What else? The ancient Spartans, offered Greg. They didn't fear war. They respected it so much they built their entire society around preparation for it. For the next several hours, the team gathered examples from human history, philosophy, and military doctrine. They pulled quotes from Sun Tzu, Clausewitz, and modern military theorists. They compiled statistics on how prepared nations historically suffered fewer casualties than unprepared ones. As the station's artificial night cycle began, the embassy staff finally had a clear strategy. Amanda dismissed everyone except Daniel to get some rest before tomorrow's crucial council session. Do you think it will work? Daniel asked when they were alone. Amanda sighed, suddenly looking tired. It has to. The alternative is accepting a fundamental lie about who we are as a species. And if it doesn't work? Daniel persisted. Amanda's expression hardened. Then we show them why respecting war's power is different from fearing it. Her secure communication device buzzed. The ID showed it was from Earth Central, the highest level of human government. Reeves here, she answered. Ambassador, came the voice of President Elaine Morgan. I've been briefed on the situation. The Joint Chiefs are pushing for a show, a force. They want to move the Third Fleet to the edge of council space. Amanda frowned. With respect, Madam President, that would only reinforce the Taurians' narrative that we act out of fear. Then what do you propose? Let me handle this. Diplomatically first, Amanda said. I have a strategy. If it fails, then we can discuss military options. There was a pause before the President responded. You have 24 hours, Ambassador. After that, I need to show the colonial governments we're taking concrete action. Understood. Thank you, Madam President. After ending the call, Amanda sat heavily in her chair. Daniel looked at her with concern. You should rest, he suggested. She shook her head. Not yet. I need to prepare my speech. The team already drafted one, Daniel reminded her. It's not enough to explain our position, Amanda said, pulling her datapad closer. I need to make them feel it. The Galactic Council thinks they understand humanity because they've studied our wars. Tomorrow I'm going to show them they've barely scratched the surface. She began typing, her eyes intense with concentration. They called us fearful, Daniel. By tomorrow evening, that word will never be associated with humanity again. Daniel quietly left the room as Amanda continued working. Through the viewport behind her, Earth was just becoming visible as the station rotated, a small blue dot in the distance. Amanda paused her work briefly to look at it, drawing strength from the sight of her homeworld. Then she turned back to her preparations, working through the night to craft the response that would redefine humanity's place in the galaxy. 3 months had passed since the showdown in the Galactic Council chamber. The diplomatic vessel Northern Star cruised alongside ships from 20 different species, forming an impressive fleet conducting joint exercises in neutral space. From the observation deck, Amanda Reeves watched as vessels performed complex maneuvers with growing coordination. The Rigelian ships are finally getting the hang of Formation Delta, Daniel commented, standing beside her at the viewport. Only took them 12 attempts. Amanda smiled. They're trying. That's what matters. The Joint Military Doctrine Committee had grown beyond anyone's expectations. What started as a diplomatic compromise had evolved into the most significant multi-species collaboration in Council history. Representatives from 37 spacefaring civilizations now participated in regular training exercises, sharing defensive strategies and technologies previously kept secret. A chime sounded, and the ship's communication system activated. Ambassador Reeves, Supreme Commander Archon has arrived and requests your presence in Conference Room 1. Thank you. I'll be right there, Amanda replied. Daniel handed her a data tablet. The latest reports from Earth. President Morgan is very pleased with the progress. Colonial governors are reporting record low security incidents. Amanda nodded. Peace through mutual respect and understanding. Exactly what we hoped for. She made her way through the ship's corridors, nodding to crew members and alien representatives as she passed. The Northern Star had become the unofficial headquarters of the committee, hosting diplomats and military leaders from across the galaxy. Conference Room 1 had been specially modified to accommodate various species. Adjustable gravity fields, atmosphere barriers, and temperature zones allowed beings with wildly different biological needs to meet comfortably. Supreme Commander Archon waited inside, his iridescent feathers now a deep blue, a sign of confidence and calm among Taurians. "Ambassador Reeves," he greeted, performing the human handshake they had practiced. "The exercises are proceeding well." "They are," Amanda agreed. "Your tactical officers have integrated the human defensive formations impressively quickly." Archon made a pleased clicking sound. "We have learned much from humans these past months. Your approach to defensive positioning is efficient." Coming from a Taurian military leader, this was high praise indeed. Amanda accepted it with a gracious nod. "The council meeting tomorrow will be significant," Archon continued. "Many species who initially resisted this committee now wish to join. The Clarathan Empire has even offered to share their shielding technology." Amanda raised her eyebrows in surprise. The Clarathans were notoriously protective of their technological advances. "That's unprecedented." "Indeed." Archon's eyes fixed on her. "They said your speech to the council changed their assessment of cooperation versus isolation. They now believe mutual defense is stronger than secrecy." Before Amanda could respond, the ship's alert system activated. "Ambassador Reeves, urgent communication from Earth Central. Priority Alpha." "Excuse me," she said to Archon, moving to the secure terminal in the corner of the room. She entered her authorization code, and President Morgan's face appeared on the screen. "Ambassador, we have a situation," the president said without preamble. "The colony on Kepler 186F has detected an unknown object approaching their system. It's not matching any known signatures, council or otherwise." Amanda felt a chill run down her spine. First contact with a non-council species? Possibly. Or something else entirely. Either way, Kepler 186F is requesting immediate assistance. Amanda didn't hesitate. "We have a multi-species fleet conducting exercises less than 2 light days from Kepler. I'll coordinate an immediate response." The president nodded. "Keep me informed. Earth Central out." Amanda turned to find Archon standing closer, his posture showing he had overheard. "A test," he said simply. "For our new understanding?" "Yes," Amanda agreed. "Will the Taurian contingent join us?" Archon's feathers rippled. "Ambassador, the Taurian vessels are already preparing for immediate departure to your colony, as are the Rigelian and Proxima ships." For a moment, Amanda was speechless. Then she smiled. Without even being asked, "Is that not what allies do?" Archon asked. "We respect the potential danger. We prepare accordingly. We stand together." He tilted his head. Did we not learn this from humans? Within an hour, the entire training fleet had changed course for the Kepler system. On the bridge of the Northern Star, Amanda coordinated with captains from dozens of species. There was no fear in their communications, only calm preparation and determination. Admiral Blake's hologram appeared beside her. "Ambassador, Earth has dispatched additional vessels, but they won't arrive for at least 72 hours. You're on your own until then." "Not alone, Admiral," Amanda corrected, gesturing to the view screen showing the combined fleet. "We have more firepower here than Earth could deploy on short notice anyway." Blake looked surprised. "All those ships are coming to defend a human colony?" "Yes. It seems the Joint Military Doctrine Committee has been more successful than we anticipated." The Admiral's expression was thoughtful. "It's been less than 3 months since the Taurians tried to paint us as fearful and paranoid. Now they're rushing to defend our colony. People can change, Admiral. Species can change." Amanda watched as the fleet entered formation around the Northern Star. Sometimes all it takes is a new perspective. When the fleet reached Kepler 186F, 4 days later, they discovered the unknown object was a damaged ship from beyond Council space. Its inhabitants, crystalline beings unlike any known species, were not hostile but desperate, fleeing from some unknown threat in the unexplored regions. On the colony's main landing pad, Amanda stood with representatives from 12 species as the crystalline beings emerged from their vessel. Behind them, ships from across the galaxy maintained a defensive perimeter, not out of fear, but out of respect for the unknown. "This is exactly why we prepare," Amanda said quietly to Daniel. "Not because we expect the worst, but because we respect the possibility." The crystalline beings approached, communicating through light patterns that the translation systems struggled to interpret. But one message came through clearly. They were astonished to find so many different species working together. Later, as the diplomatic team helped the visitors, Amanda received a message from High Counselor Javek. "The Council has voted to formally expand the Joint Military Doctrine Committee into a permanent galactic defense initiative," it read. "Your appointment as its first director has been approved unanimously. The Council acknowledges that humanity's approach to preparedness and conflict has value for all peaceful species." Amanda showed the message to Daniel, who smiled. "From being accused of fear to leading galactic defense in 3 months. Not bad, Ambassador." "It was never about us," Amanda replied, watching as human colonists worked alongside aliens to repair the crystalline being's ship. "It was about getting everyone to understand something humans learned long ago." "What's that?" Amanda looked up at the stars visible through the colony's transparent dome, where ships from across the galaxy stood guard together. "That peace isn't passive. It requires vigilance, strength, and mutual respect." She smiled. "And now, for perhaps the first time, we have a galaxy that truly understands that." Above them, Taurian, Rigelian, and human vessels flew in perfect formation, not out of fear, but out of respect for what they protected together.